So if you're a business leader, maybe prepping a strategy for expanding overseas, you probably know that feeling. The excitement about a new market. And then, bam, you hit the wall of regulatory paperwork. That information overload, it's a real headache, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Universal problem.
Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that pain point. We're looking at the, let's say, complex landscape of Bangladesh payroll services and HR outsourcing. We've gathered quite a few sources, industry reports, compliance guides, even some expert interviews, basically trying to give you a shortcut to getting it right. Our mission, to figure out what it really takes to manage a workforce in Bangladesh compliantly and efficiently, especially if you're a foreign company. And the big question we want to answer is this: how can, real expertise in local law and tech actually turn this burden into an advantage, freeing you up to grow?
That's the million-dollar question, really, because payroll, especially internationally, it's just never simply about cutting checks. It's this huge administrative, financial, and frankly, legal weight.
Yeah, and what our sources consistently show is that outsourcing is fundamentally about transferring that entire liability. The provider, they handle the complex calculations, they make the deductions, taxes, contributions, all that stuff, and they file the forms on time, correctly.
So peace of mind, basically.
Exactly, peace of mind. It lets you shift your focus, your energy, your resources back to, well, growing the business. Strategy, not paperwork.
Okay, right. Let's unpack that internal approach then, the DIY method.
Yeah.
What actually happens if a company, maybe growing fast, tries to handle all these local rules in-house, especially somewhere like Bangladesh?
Well, the risks pop up almost immediately, and they're twofold: financial hits and unhappy employees.
Unhappy employees. How so? Yeah, one expert we looked at really flagged this. Simple mistakes, maybe in deduction amounts or just the calculation process, it leads to a huge amount of dissatisfaction, and that affects both the employer and the employee. It can really damage morale.
I can see that. And then there's the scale issue, right, as you grow.
Oh, absolutely. The complexity just ramps up. We saw in the sources, once you cross a certain size, say maybe over 100 employees, you're actually required by law there to have a dedicated accounts or HR team.
A whole department just for this.
A whole department, yes. Responsible for calculating the monthly taxes, handling things like the mandatory provident fund deductions, and getting those payments to the government exchequer every single month.
Wow, okay. That sounds expensive.
And that's exactly where the cost argument flips. Maintaining that internal team means ongoing fixed costs, salaries, overhead, costs that don't directly generate revenue, but hiring a specialized third-party consultant. The sources suggest that can actually reduce your overall costs significantly compared to that long-term internal burden. You're basically swapping a fixed liability for a variable expert service.
Okay, so it's not just about avoiding mistakes. It's potentially cheaper, too.
Potentially, yes, especially when you factor in the cost of errors if you do it internally without the right expertise.
Right. And connecting this directly to Bangladesh, it feels like we're moving beyond just generic accounting mistakes into something riskier.
Definitely riskier. You're not just applying, say, standard international accounting principles. You have to follow Bangladeshi labor laws and tax codes to the letter.
And this is where the local knowledge is crucial, I guess.
Absolutely critical. It's not like some places where compliance might be more standardized. Bangladesh has specific requirements, mandatory things, miss them, and the liability can be massive.
Like what? Can you give an example?
Sure. A simple compliance mistake globally might be miscalculating income tax withholding, right? You fix it, maybe pay a small penalty. But a high-stakes local mistake in Bangladesh, that could be failing to calculate or pay the mandatory 2 festival bonuses each year. That's required by law.
2 festival bonuses. Okay, didn't know that.
Exactly. Or misclassifying workers. That could expose you to serious legal action based on their specific worker protection laws. This is why just general accounting knowledge often isn't enough. You need specialists who know the current local rules.
That makes total sense. The risk isn't just a fine. It could actually halt your operations if you get tangled in legal or labor issues.
Precisely. Operational paralysis is a real threat.
Which I suppose leads us nicely into the modern solution providers, because it's clear they're not just offering basic payroll calculation anymore. It's much more integrated.
That's right. The successful ones are positioning themselves as like a one-stop partner for business setup.
A one-stop partner, covering what exactly?
Well, the core offerings combine HR services, payroll solutions, naturally, but also things like employer of record, professional employer organization, and even fintech services. It's all bundled together.
Right, you mentioned EOR and PEO. Those acronyms come up a lot for international expansion. Let's break those down. What's the difference?
Okay. They're both crucial, but they serve slightly different needs, especially for foreign companies entering Bangladesh. Let's start with EOR, employer of record. Think of this as the most flexible option, especially if you're just testing the waters.
Testing the waters, how?
Say you want to hire maybe 1 or 2 people remotely in Bangladesh, but you don't want to go through the whole process of setting up your own legal entity there, which is, believe me, a significant administrative task.
Okay.
So you use an EOR. The EOR legally hires the staff for you. They handle all the local compliance, the employment contracts, even work permits or visas if needed.
So they're the legal employer on paper.
Exactly. You, the client company, just manage the employee's actual day-to-day tasks and work. It's almost like you're, well, renting the legal employment structure locally.
Renting the structure. Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So if EOR is renting, what's PEO, professional employer organization? How does that differ?
PEO is generally for companies making a more long-term commitment. Maybe you've decided Bangladesh is key, you're building a team, and you want a bit more direct control, particularly over things like employee benefits.
Ah, benefits. Okay.
Right. PEOs often use a co-employment model. They still handle the heavy lifting on compliance, local laws, tax filings, all that. But you, the client, typically have more input on, say, designing a competitive health insurance plan or a retirement scheme that's specifically tailored to the Bangladeshi market.
So it's more collaborative.
Exactly. It's more like co-owning the employment relationship, but
Yeah.
with a local expert managing the tricky compliance side.
Okay, that distinction is super helpful. EOR for flexibility and distance, PEO for deeper integration and benefit control. Got it. Now, you also mentioned fintech services. That word gets thrown around a lot. The sources list things like tax services, bookkeeping. Isn't that just standard accounting? What makes it fintech?
That's a fair question. It's not just about doing the accounting, it's about the technology that drives it. That's the fintech angle.
How so?
Well, modern fintech integration means things like real-time system links with local tax authorities. It means instant salary payments through integrated local banking systems. It means automated compliance checks, not manual ones.
Automation and integration.
Precisely. So yes, it includes the core accounting and bookkeeping, definitely, but it also brings in more advanced functions like audit and assurance, using technology to ensure accuracy and provide real-time visibility. It turns the HR provider from just a processor into more of a real-time financial compliance partner.
Okay, that's a significant upgrade. Fascinating. Let's shift gears slightly then. We know what they offer, but how do these expert providers actually guarantee that precision, especially in places like Bangladesh where rules can change?
It comes down to a few core operational tactics, really.
Okay, let's tick through those.
Yeah.
First up, obviously, accurate salary calculation. That has to be baseline, right?
Non-negotiable. And it's not just the basic pay, it's meticulously calculating all the allowances, bonuses, including those mandatory festival ones we talked about.
Okay, the festival bonuses.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the deductions, taxes, insurance, retirement contributions, everything has to be spot on. Zero error is the goal.
Okay. Tactic number 2.
Continuous compliance with regulations. Their teams need to be like regulatory watchdogs, constantly monitoring changes in Bangladeshi labor law, tax codes, staying ahead of the curve.
Proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. That proactive stance is what minimizes that core risk of penalties and problems down the line.
Makes sense. And the third tactic?
It's all about transparency and proof. So, robust reporting and record keeping. Providing really detailed reports, employee earnings, tax breakdowns, payment summaries, all the documentation a business needs for its own financial planning, but also, crucially, for any potential audits.
Right, the audit trail. Okay.
Yeah.
And underpinning all of this, I assume, is technology.
Technology is the absolute engine. It's what makes handling all this complexity feasible, especially if you have a large team or, increasingly common, remote workers in Bangladesh.
Yeah, remote work adds another layer, doesn't it?
It does. So good systems provide accurate time and attendance tracking, even for remote staff. Capturing hours, leave, overtime precisely is critical for getting the pay right.
And what about trickier things, like wage garnishments or other legal deductions?
The tech handles that too. Handling garnishments and deductions accurately according to local legal requirements is key. The aim is really to automate that whole payroll cycle as much as possible. It just lifts that administrative weight off the client.
And security.
Yeah.
We're talking sensitive data here.
Hugely important. Payroll data security is paramount. Providers have to implement really strong, often international standard security measures, protecting against data breaches, unauthorized access. That's often a compliance requirement in itself.
Of course.
Oh.
And for international clients, currency must be an issue.
Yes, so offering reliable solutions for handling multi-currency payments efficiently is another key piece, taking away that complexity of exchange rates and international transfers.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the how. This brings us back nicely to the why, the benefits. It seems like this approach tackles the big weaknesses of trying to do it all yourself.
It really does.
So if we were to summarize the key takeaways for, someone listening who's maybe considering this, what are the top advantages? The sources seem to point to three main ones.
I think that's right. Advantage number one really flows from all that focus on accuracy and monitoring we discussed. It's accuracy and compliance. You get the benefit of precise calculations, strict adherence to local laws. That immediately cuts down your financial risk, prevents those costly errors, and avoids that employee dissatisfaction we mentioned earlier.
Okay, accuracy and compliance. Benefit number two.
That would be efficiency and time savings, driven largely by the technology and automation. You streamline the whole process. You get timely salary payments, correct tax filings, smooth benefits administration. It frees up internal resources and just makes the whole operation run better, boosts productivity.
Makes sense. And the third advantage.
I'd say it's support and customization.
Yeah.
You're not just buying software, you're getting access to experts. You receive dedicated support, tailored solutions for whatever your specific needs are, maybe managing remote teams across time zones, dealing with complex benefits, handling multi-currency payments without risk. It's partnership.
Accuracy, efficiency, support. Got it. That's a compelling case. So looking back at everything we've covered, it seems pretty clear that operating successfully in Bangladesh, it takes a lot more than just basic payroll processing. You need this comprehensive mix of HR knowledge, deep legal compliance, and modern tech efficiency.
Absolutely. I think the core insight from all the sources today is that partnering locally really transforms a major risk, that regulatory compliance burden, into something streamlined, something managed, something that actually supports your expansion instead of blocking it.
Right. So final thoughts then. What does this all mean for you, the listener? We've established that deep local expertise isn't just nice to have, it's essential for compliance in Bangladesh, especially with unique rules like those festival bonuses. And we've seen that handling things like global remote teams, multi-currency issues, that's becoming standard stuff for the top providers now. Yeah. Automated, efficient. So here's the thought to maybe chew on. If these specialized HR providers are now layering in services that look a lot like IT support, cloud services, data security, and also high-level regulatory functions, due diligence, audit assurance, is the modern HR outsourcing firm actually becoming something more? Are they becoming, essentially, the full legal and operational backbone for a company serious about entering a complex new market like Bangladesh? Something to think about as you plan your next move.